Is Will Smith's apology genuine? You know, at first when I read it, I thought it was. And then I started to think about it. There are a few elements in there that make me feel like it's not actually as genuine as it's maybe meant to be. So I want to break down Will Smith's apology here in this video and share with you some of my thoughts right after this. So my name is Tammy and I am your communication coach. And if you're new to this channel, hit subscribe so you get the content as it is released when it is released. Now, at the time of recording this, ChrisRock has yet to publicize anything publicly about apologizing for his inappropriate joke. There is, however, an apology circulating that appears to be from ChrisRock, but his team has come out to debunk it, and it's the one that starts with, "As a comedian, it's difficult to," etc., etc. So that has not been published by ChrisRock per his PR team. So in this video, we're going to focus on the only apology I can find right now, and that is the one from Will Smith. Okay, so on March 28th in the evening, in Mountain Standard Time is where I am, so it would have been evening for me, Will Smith posted his official apology. And it reads this: "Violence in all of its forms is poisonous and destructive. My behavior at last night's Academy Awards was unacceptable and inexcusable. Jokes at my expense are part of the job, but a joke about Jada's medical condition was too much for me to bear and I reacted emotionally. I would like to publicly apologize to you, Chris. I was out of line and I was wrong. I am embarrassed and my actions were not indicative of the man I want to be. There is no place for violence in a world of love and kindness. I would also like to apologize to the Academy, the producers of the show, and all attendees and everyone watching around the world. I'd like to apologize to the Williams family and my King Richard family. I deeply regret that my behavior has stained what has been an otherwise gorgeous journey for all of us. I am a work in progress, sincerely, Will." Now, admittedly, when I first read that, I'm like, oh, this is beautiful. But there were just a few things tugging at me that I wanted to come back and revisit. Now, when it comes to apologies, we can't demand that they come to us in any particular form, shape, or context. And so when an apology is gifted, I do consider that to be an apology. With Will Smith's apology, I do have a few things I'd like to point out that could have been strengthened in order to really make this apology have a meaningful impact. Well, I guess I can't speak for Chris. Just from a communications perspective, there are some elements there that I think could have been reworked a little bit. So there's 3 key ingredients in an apology, and I want to kind of use those to break down Will Smith's apology. The first is that you identify what behavior you did that you are apologizing for. The second is that you talk about the impact. So how did it impact you and what did you see in them? And that's really going to get to the reason as to why this is important for you to apologize. You're actually connecting with the humanness of each other. And then number 3 is, what are you going to do going forward? How are we not going to get in this place again? So keeping those 3 characteristics in mind, let's break down Will Smith's apology. The first paragraph, we have a broad belief statement that violence is poisonous and destructive. 100% agree, and I think the whole world would agree on that. And so he's already brought you all in to what he wants to share. And so this is a brilliant strategy to create an affinity for Will. However, it's not an apology. And if this is truly an apology, that should be first, and his philosophy can come afterwards, in my mind. As we further move down this first paragraph, we see that he does mention how inappropriate and inexcusable, were his words, his behaviors were. Now for me, I think a good apology actually identifies what behavior. So if I were to have said something rude to you, I would want to say to you, I'm sorry that I was rude to you. The words that I used were not appropriate. You want to be specific so that when the person hears your apology, they know that you get it. And so this is a pretty, again, big, broad umbrella. My behaviors. Which part of them, Will? What are you exactly apologizing for? Because there was a lot going on in that minute and a half. Continuing down this apology, then we get into the rationale as to why he reacted. Jokes about me are cool, but when you joke about my wife, that's a line I'm crossing. And so that word "but" takes away everything else in front of it. And if I were to rewrite this, I would maybe use the word "and" there instead. So jokes at my expense are part of the job. And when I hear a joke about Jada's medical condition, it makes me feel frustrated. And I just couldn't bear that emotionally. There needs to be a little bit more ownership here for me. Now remember, I'm just breaking this down from a communication standpoint. As I said earlier, I do believe that when an apology is gifted to you, that is the first step towards resolution and reviving at-risk relationships. And we cannot demand how an apology comes to us. And if we ignore the offering, then we're not going to be part of the solution. For this video, I just want to break down as a communication standpoint the pieces of this apology that are kind of niggling at me in the back of the head here and what I would have rather seen instead. Now in the second paragraph is where the apology actually lies. And I think this piece should have been very front and center. But even in this paragraph, there's one thing I would have loved to have seen to really make this have an impact. So we see here that he would like to publicly apologize to Chris. Chris has an Instagram handle. Why don't you tag him? Why don't you make sure he sees it? Instead, there is no tag. There is no reference to ChrisRock. It's just, I want to apologize to you, Chris. Perhaps that is a intimacy piece, but I do think tagging Chris would have made this so much more meaningful to ensure that Chris sees it. Now, I do love the rest of this paragraph. I was out of line. I was wrong. I am embarrassed. So he's talking about the impact now to himself as well. I am embarrassed and my actions were not indicative of the man that I want to be. There is no place for violence in a world of love and kindness. Again, he reiterates his very first umbrella belief here at the end of this paragraph. I honestly don't think it's needed here. I think that might be a little bit of a jab towards Chris, that there is no place for violence, and that includes jokes that harm people in this world of love and peace. I feel like that doesn't need to be there, but that's just me coming from a communication perspective. The rest of the paragraph I love. I just wish you would have tagged Chris so he could see this. Now I want to highlight again in this last paragraph, there's something I think that's really significant. So while he's apologizing to everybody else here in this paragraph, so yes, Chris deserved his own apology. I think these could have been two separate apologies. I understand why they'd be together, but I feel like if you're apologizing to Chris, you're apologizing to Chris. That's one relationship. And then if you're apologizing to the Williams, that's another relationship. And so if I was in conflict with you, I don't want you to apologize to all of those people when you're talking to me. So I feel like there's a takeaway, or like it takes away from the impact of the apology to Chris, because I feel in the third paragraph is where his true apology is and his true heart is. And that's what motivated this post. Apologizing to the Academy, apologizing to the attendees, apologizing to the Williams family and their King Richard family, because he knows now the gravity of his actions and how it took away from all of that beautiful work that they did together. ChrisRock wasn't a part of that. So I feel like in that third paragraph, we get his true heart coming through. Paragraph 1, broad statement and the reason he was triggered. In paragraph 2, he apologizes to Chris and says his actions were inappropriate, but he doesn't get clear enough, and he doesn't say what he's going to do going forward. There's a piece missing in this apology to Chris. I'm sorry is just not enough. You need to show people what you're going to do instead and how you're going to grow. And now I want to just talk about his closing. I am a work in progress. When I first read this, I'm like, yes, we are all a work in progress. And then I'm like, yes, we're all a work in progress. And so I almost felt like this could have been another but. You know what, but I'm just a work in progress, so that's how it goes. This can be read a lot of different ways, and I know I'd love to hear your interpretations below. When I looked at this apology at first, like I said, I was drawn to it because I thought it was very heart-centered. And then the more I read it, the more I just thought there's some pieces missing here. I think ChrisRock deserves a true apology. And I do hope that this was either followed up or preceded by a phone call, a way in which they could be face-to-face if Chris was ready to have received that. And if not, then I think ChrisRock deserves his own standalone post apologizing for what you did, the reasons you did it, what you're learning from it, and what you're going to do going forward. A broad statement that violence is not acceptable in a place where there's love and peace tells me nothing about what you're going to do. Now, Will Smith, I love you. I think you're brilliant. I will continue to watch your movies. I just felt this apology was a little bit short of what it could have been to have the impact that it needs to have in today's world. In summary, the 3 key ingredients for an apology are this. Acknowledge what you did wrong. Share the impact for you, for them. And then talk about what you're going to do going forward in the future so that this doesn't happen again. So that's how I see the Will Smith apology. Do I think it's a fake apology? No. Do I think it could be worked on? 100%. But as I stated earlier, we don't get to choose how an apology comes to us, but we do get to choose how we receive it. Now, if Chris does put out a statement, I will certainly do a video and look at his apology as well. In the meantime, the statement that's been put out that is not his is beautiful. And if you want a lesson on what an apology really looks like and the detail it should have in there, I would go look at his fake apology. Anyways, that's it for me. Subscribe, hit the like button, and comment below. I'd love to hear your thoughts. This is definitely an evolving situation and one that I think we'll be talking about for a long time.